The Darkness 2 is a 2012 game by Digital Extremes, the company that went on to make Warframe, and it has a strange history of sorts. You see, the first game was a console exclusive and never really made it that big. It was a different kind of game, a slower-paced first-person shooter with a range of abilities that you, Jackie, had at your command, and those abilities encompass the titular Darkness, which is a monstrous creature that lives inside you and manifests as these demonic heads that come out your back and serve as an extra set of hands. You could dual-wield weapons in the first game, and that was carried over into the sequel, but you also had your two demonic heads, and they had their own abilities. Well, the sequel decided to move away from the slower-paced stealthy action of the first game, and instead decided to give your light-hating monster a much more offensive set of abilities. Sure, you can still eat people's hearts, but now you can also smash people and impale them with spikes that you've picked up and thrown. It's gory and fun. So what makes it so great, other than the obvious greatness I just mentioned in passing? 2 hands. Alright, so you have 2 hands, like most of us do, but each of those hands can hold a weapon. So, you can dual-wield any single-handed gun, like a pistol or Uzi, or you can ditch the dual-wielding to use something two-handed like a shotgun or AK-47. When dual-wielding, you lose accuracy because you can't aim down the sights, but you can fire them independently, which is great for when you've blasted through an entire submachine gun clip, and now you need to use the other gun to shoot while you reload the first. It's simply satisfying to move through the world and gun people down in a more visceral sense. In addition, the game can be played without relying too much on the titular Darkness, and that's great. You may not be able to get away with only using your guns during boss fights, but in the regular game, you can just act as if it's a cover shooter and take careful aim. Or, you can run down the corridor screaming as you unload clip after clip into your enemies, but then you may need to rely on more than just your 2 hands. 2 heads. Now, sure, you can't just use the guns, but that would be spoiling a vast majority of the fun. You can, on the flip side, rely almost exclusively on the Darkness too. The Darkness provides you with 2 main abilities, Slash and Grab. The Slash has you slashing an enemy or thing in your chosen direction, and that can stagger or kill enemies, depending on where you've put your upgrade points, while the Grabber allows you to grab things in the environment like pool cues or explosive barrels, and then you can throw them at your enemies. However, the Grabber has an additional function, and that's to grab staggered enemies. You can grab them and then finish them off with a special finisher that in some way provides you with something. There's a finisher that gives you health, another gives you a shield, etc. You want to mix and match these to give yourself an advantage in battle. There's something just so visceral about using those 2 demonic heads. They provide a way of interacting with the world that really isn't seen in any other shooter. Sure, games like BioShock give you special abilities to use alongside your guns, but nothing quite as integral to the experience as these extra heads. However, it really isn't right to talk about either of these without discussing their intersection. As I've said before, you can play the game using either the guns or the Darkness, but that's a horrible way to play. You want the combination of both sides. You want to be able to sprint, gunning down as many enemies as you can, grabbing one who isn't quite dead, finishing him off with the ammo finisher so you can get more ammo, pulling out your shotgun, blasting another, grabbing a crate off the floor, and throwing it at another. It just offers you a frantic style of gameplay that is oh so satisfying to pull off. They also work off each other. They are, for instance, abilities that the Darkness can bestow on your guns, provided you can wait long enough for it to recharge. Or you have things like the ammo finisher, briefly mentioned above, which allows you to keep blasting at enemies without any real fear of running out of bullets. The combination of these 2 things, the guns which cut enemies down, and the Darkness which offers extra attacks and keeps your health and ammo up, allows the gameplay to be more aggressive. You are not encouraged to hide behind cover and shoot people. You can take damage. With every enemy you kill, you can eat their heart and regain health. Played recklessly. The narrative idea behind the Darkness is that it's some ancient entity, and it will not let its host die. So it makes narrative sense for you to sustain multiple gunshot wounds. You can't die, so keep shooting and ripping through them. Now, you obviously can die in-game, because if you were invincible, it might make it a bit dull to play. But you are quite the tank regardless. You can sustain quite a lot of damage before you need to retreat, and that's great. Not every game needs to be super challenging. Some just need to give you a toy box filled with demonic powers and then let you run rampant. And what's also great is that the narrative is fun, and so unlike many other mechanic-heavy games, the story is actually pretty alright. Not one of the best ever made, you know, the first game is better in that regard, but a fun story and fun gameplay, well that's a pretty good deal. So, go on, check out the Darkness 2 release You're in a Demon, and wage a one-man war against an evil organization that's out to get you. You'll have a blast. And that's it for the Darkness 2.